synthetic division is going to make your life considerably better in terms of division. What you notice, though, is that all of these have a coefficient of 1 in these two, or an exponent of 1. Okay, this one does not here, but it still has an exponent of 1. If it has an exponent greater than that, it becomes really tricky and you can't use long division or synthetic division. Okay, so you're going to decide what you're dividing by. So when you decide on that, you're taking this and you're setting it equal to 0. Okay, if you solve this, you get that x equals 6. So it's pretty much just the opposite of what you see. So this one would be that x is 3. That's what you're going to divide by. Whereas this one, same sort of thing. You just have to do a couple more steps in that. You're going to subtract 3 and then divide by 2. And you get x equals -3/2. Okay, some of you will start to notice that you're just switching the sign of the second one and dividing by whatever is out there. So how I did that, just in case you weren't following the quick stuff, add the 4, and then divide by -5, and then you get -4/5. Okay, so what do you do if there's a term missing? This is really, really important. You have to plug in a 0. So let's say, I'm going to move this up here, you had like 2x squared plus 3. When you're setting up the synthetic division, you'll have 2, then a 0, then 3, because there's no x term. That would have been your x term, is the 0. If there's a remainder, you're going to put it with the divisor. Okay, and we'll get to a couple of those. All right, so your first one. What you're looking at first is what you're dividing by. So this thing. You can either do this in your head, or you can write it out, and know that you're dividing by -6. So what -6 does is it goes in the box. Okay, so then you write the coefficients in order. So coefficients are the numbers out in front. So you do 4, then 9, then 6. Okay, 100% of the time always, you drop this 4 down. You always drop that first number. Then you're going to multiply by -6, because that is what's in the box. That gives me a -24. So then this becomes a problem in itself right here. You're doing 9 minus 24, which is -15. Then you take -15 and you multiply it by -6. That gives me a +90. Okay, so then I put those together and I get 96. So here's where your answer comes in. So this, you're always going to start at the right-hand side. Remainder, number, x. If you had more stuff, it'd go x to the third, or x squared, then x to the third, so on and so forth. So your answer is 4x minus 15, and since you have a remainder, you're putting plus 96 over x plus 6. Okay, here's your remainder, then your divisor goes on bottom. And that's going to be your answer for that. So let's look at a couple more. Okay, most importantly, put in standard form. Okay, so when we put this in standard form, what I mean is you're looking at these and you're putting them in order. So our highest one is to the 5th. So we have 10, then to the 4th is -84, then to the 3rd is -51, squared is -18, to the 1st is -80, and then -9. Okay, what are we dividing by? What goes in our box? A +9. That's from right here. Okay, 100% of the time always, we drop down this first number. Then we take that number and we multiply by 9, because that's what's in the box. We get 90. Then this becomes its own problem. Add those together and you get 6. Now you're taking 6 and you're multiplying that by 9. That's going to give me 54. Okay, this becomes its own problem. And you get -3. Take -3, multiply it by 9. I get -27. Oh, this is a +3. I'm sorry, that would have been a big difference. A +27. You're adding these together. When you add those together, you get a +9. Multiply 9 by 9. I get 81, When you add those together, you get 1, multiply by 9. That gives me 9. This becomes its own problem, and that gives me 0. Okay, so when you're putting your answer together, this is my remainder. So you have a remainder of 0. Then our number, then x squared, x to the third, x to the fourth. So your answer is 10x to the fourth plus 6x cubed plus 3x squared plus 9x plus 1. All right, so now let's look at one more of these. The trickiest part about this is you're going to get a fraction. When you set this equal to 0, you're going to add 1. So that's 2b equals 1, divide by 2. I get b equals 1/2. So 1/2 is what's going to go in the box. I would definitely leave it as a fraction, because if you don't, sometimes decimals will mess you up, where fractions are going to end up being nice. So this is already in order: 2, 7, -8, 12, -11, and 2. Okay, 100% of the time, always, we drop down this number. Then we multiply by a half. You're saying, what's half of 2? Half of 2 is 1. Add those together, I get 8. What is half of 8? 4. Add those together, I get -4. What's a half of -4? -2. Add those together to get 10. What's half of what's half of 10? 5. Add those to get -6. Multiply -6 by a half, you get -3, which is -1. Okay, so you have remainder, number, x squared, x to the third, and x to the fourth. So your answer will look like this. And this really simplifies the process of division. Yeah, I changed them to x's when it should be b's. And where did that come from? What we divided by. It always goes on the bottom. So this makes your life a whole lot quicker if it is not raised to a power. So that is synthetic division.